The steady rhythm of the heart monitor was the only thing tethering the room to time. Beep, beep, beep. Outside, the storm howled through downtown Atlanta. Wind slammed against the tall hospital windows like fists demanding entrance. But inside room 817, everything was still. Dim overhead lights cast long shadows on the marble-tiled floor, and the cold scent of antiseptic clung to every surface. Lying perfectly motionless in the center of the room was him, Sterling Maddox, tech titan, billionaire, philanthropist. 43 years old, healthy, and now, apparently comatose. His face, clean-shaven and solemn, showed no hint of the firestorm beneath his eyelids. Electrodes dotted his temples. A feeding tube snaked into his nose. His arms rested atop the crisp white blanket like granite statues. Lifeless. A fall, they said. A freak accident on his private estate. Neck trauma. Head swelling. Zero responsiveness. But behind the closed curtain of stillness, Sterling's mind was awake. Trapped. Listening. Waiting. The door creaked open. He recognized the soft tread of shoes instantly. Leather soles. Lightweight. She always walked quietly, habit from years working in palliative care. Jasmine Fields, head nurse, mid-30s, intelligent, too intelligent. And tonight her movements were different, hesitant, heavy. She shut the door behind her and took a breath that trembled in her throat. Then she sat beside him and took his hand in both of hers. Her palms were warm. Sterling's skin didn't react, but his heart, unnoticed beneath the machines, kicked harder in his chest. "You don't deserve this," she whispered. "But if you are still in there, I need you to hear me now, before they come back." She leaned in. Her lips were inches from his ear. "I never meant for you to find out what we did." The heart monitor spiked once, then evened out again. Beep, beep, beep. Outside, thunder rolled across the skyline like a warning drum. Inside, the truth was beginning to uncoil. The room was quiet again. Jasmine sat motionless beside the hospital bed, her hands clasped tight, the silence pressing down like a weight. Sterling's chest rose and fell in slow, mechanical intervals. Her voice returned, low, like a confession she had rehearsed too many times in her head. It was never supposed to go this far. She glanced at the closed blinds, then back at him. Her dark eyes searched his still face, half hoping he might blink. He didn't. "They said it'd be a simple transfer, just one account, just one shell company. I was only supposed to be the signature they needed. Just a nurse, a witness, nothing more." She paused, pulling her sweater sleeves over her wrists. The room suddenly felt colder. "But then you started asking questions, and when you didn't stop—" Malik panicked. Sterling heard the name like a slap. Malik, his COO, his childhood friend, his most trusted confidant, the man who stood next to him at every earnings call, who toasted beside him at every investor dinner. "He's not who you think he is," she continued. "He's not the man you built this company with." Jasmine stood now, pacing quietly in front of the foot of the bed, her hands flexing as though the words alone stung her palms. "You were getting close, too close. That last audit? He thought you'd trace the money trail. And when you mentioned restructuring your will," her voice faltered. "That's when he made the call." Sterling's jaw twitched, almost imperceptibly. The muscle flickered once, then went still. "I was in the guest house that night. I saw you fall from the balcony. You didn't slip, Sterling. He pushed you." She turned to face him fully now, hands by her side, face taut with regret. "I should have spoken up. I should have called the police right then. But I was scared. I thought if I stayed close, I could undo it quietly. But it's been weeks and I've been lying to everyone, including myself." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I know you can hear me. And if you can, please, just stay alive." The door opened abruptly, making her flinch. Malik stepped in, wearing a pressed gray suit and a sterile smile. His presence sucked the air out of the room. "Evening," he said, glancing briefly at Sterling before turning his attention to Jasmine. "How's our man doing?" Jasmine straightened quickly, slipping back into her professional tone. No change. Vitals are stable. Malik approached the bed, his fingers brushing against the steel bed rail like he owned it. Damn shame. Such a brilliant mind. Now just a shell. Sterling wanted to scream. He wanted to lunge at him, pull the wires off his chest and crush that smug look under his fist. But his body stayed frozen, locked behind the facade. I've arranged for him to be transferred to the private wing tomorrow, Malik said smoothly. More security, fewer visitors, just until we can make some final decisions about the company's future. Jasmine's jaw tightened, but she nodded. Understood. Malik smiled again, but it didn't reach his eyes. You've done a great job here, Jasmine. Really. Your loyalty doesn't go unnoticed. She didn't respond. He patted Sterling's arm, cold, condescending. Rest up, boss. You've earned it. Malik exited the room, the sound of his shoes fading into the hallway. The moment the door shut, Jasmine exhaled shakily. Her shoulders sagged. She leaned down to Sterling again, her lips barely moving. I'll find proof, whatever it takes. She squeezed his hand once, firmly. Then she walked out, leaving him alone with the machines. The heart monitor ticked on. Beep, beep, beep. But behind closed eyes, Sterling wasn't just listening anymore. He was remembering. Every missed report, every delayed signature, every look Malik had given him in recent months. The betrayal wasn't new. Only now it had a name, a face, a voice. And soon, it would have a reckoning. The night Jasmine slipped a wireless earbud beneath Sterling's pillow, she didn't speak a word. No instructions, no promises. Just a faint brush of her fingers along his cheek before she left the room. By morning, the whisper came through. 1 blink for yes, 2 for no. We start now. She'd found an old neurophysiology contact from med school, Dr. Alexis Moreau, now a researcher at Emory. Alexis specialized in coma state cognition, specifically residual awareness, using modified EEG software and a discrete optical scanner masked as a ceiling light. They would monitor Sterling's eye movements to initiate binary communication. It was dangerous, illegal, and it was the only way. A new ally, Alexis, entered Sterling's life 2 days later, posing as a physical therapist. She had short, coiled hair dyed copper at the ends, a piercing in her left brow, and a voice that held command. Jasmine introduced her to the staff as Dr. Eleanor Mays, a contractor from the Neurological Recovery Program. We're just monitoring signs of neuroplasticity, nothing invasive, Alexis had said. But behind closed doors, she and Jasmine worked like codebreakers, setting up devices, analyzing blinks, translating fragments into meaning. Sterling's first message took 11 hours to decode. Not accident. The second came faster. Malik took funds. Cayman accounts. Alexis cross-referenced the information with her private server, creating a data trail Jasmine could use without alerting hospital administration. She didn't ask for payment. Jasmine hadn't offered. The cause was enough. Connection. Late one night, Jasmine sat at Sterling's bedside again. The lights were low, her hand resting lightly over his. I read the minutes from the last board meeting. Malik wants to dissolve the education division. Says it's bleeding money. You'd never let that happen. One blink. Her breath caught. It still felt like a miracle every time. I found the shell corporations he used to reroute the capital, and I traced the original transaction, the one that triggered all of this. Pause, then one blink. He used your signature, a forged copy from the smart pad in your study. Another blink. Jasmine swallowed hard. You're right. He's planning a takeover. She could see the rage in Sterling's single twitch of a lid. Not overt, but present, alive. Escalating risk. 3 days later, Alexis pulled Jasmine aside with a grim expression. Malik's hired a third-party auditing firm. He's digging for anything to pin on you. If he finds out we've been pulling Sterling's EEG data or accessing his accounts, we're done. Jasmine nodded. I'll wipe the backups every night. Keep the diagnostic logs medical only. Alexis frowned. We need to go faster. We're not ahead of him anymore. We're running parallel. The nurse with 2 faces that afternoon, Jasmine noticed a new face at the nurse's station. Lacey. Blonde, sharp, eager, too eager. Said she'd been transferred from oncology. But something about the way she lingered near Sterling's file unnerved Jasmine. At 2:47 p.m., Jasmine found Lacey in the hallway making a call from an unsecured hospital phone. No, he hasn't twitched. Nothing, just dead weight. But the lead nurse keeps hovering. I'll get into the cabinet tonight. Jasmine stepped back before she was seen, heart pounding. Cabinet? She rushed to Sterling's room. That night she entered with the false calm of a seasoned professional, but bolted the door behind her. Sterling's eyes blinked once, sharp. We have a problem, she whispered, pulling a notepad from her pocket and writing in large block letters. Lacey is working for Malik. One blink, then a second. Don't worry, she murmured, folding the note. We're still ahead. For now. She placed a micro camera on the IV stand and turned it slightly toward the door. The hacker within a breakthrough came when Alexis decrypted a passcode Sterling had blinked out over 4 hours. Zephyr 59. It led to a private off-grid server, a backup Sterling had created in secret months before. Inside it were audio files, screenshots, even video of a boardroom confrontation with Malik 6 weeks before the fall. The footage was grainy but clear. Sterling, standing. Malik, pacing. You've been laundering money through our scholarship funds, Sterling said. You think no one's watching? Malik replied, voice low, lethal. I don't need to be watched, Sterling. I own the glass. The file ended there. Jasmine sat motionless for several seconds, the weight of it suffocating. Her fingers trembled as she wrote down one word and showed it to Sterling. Exposé? 2 blinks. Not yet. Deeper threads. Alexis made another discovery. Malik had been partnering with a lobbying firm in D.C., using the Maddox Foundation as a front to funnel influence into deregulation bills, ones that would tank national tech oversight and increase private surveillance contracts. Sterling's name was tied to all of it. He's not just stealing, Alexis said, her voice dark. He's rewriting the company's soul. That night, Jasmine brought the report to Sterling. She read the worst parts aloud, voice tight but steady. He's dismantling everything you built, piece by piece. If we don't stop him now, one blink. I know, she whispered. It's almost time. An attempt. The next morning, the overhead monitors registered an anomaly. Sterling's heart rate spiked, followed by a brief muscular tremor in his left hand. It lasted only 2 seconds. Lacey noticed. She brought in Malik within the hour. Jasmine stood silently in the corner, arms crossed, watching them closely. He moved? Malik asked, staring at the monitor. Could have been a spasm, Lacey said. But it registered, might need a neuroconsult. Malik's jaw clenched. We'll transfer him to the private clinic today. Prep the paperwork. Full isolation. No outside personnel without clearance. Jasmine met his eyes. That's against protocol. He's stable here. He smiled without warmth. That's not your call anymore. Fracture point. Back in the break room, Jasmine turned to Alexis. He's accelerating everything. If they move him, we lose the feed. Alexis nodded. We need to release the files, soon. Jasmine's eyes drifted to the dark hallway outside. We're out of time. One more message. Just one. That night, she placed the scanner over Sterling one final time. Are you ready? She asked, her voice trembling. One blink. She nodded. Then we hit back tomorrow. She placed a kiss gently on his temple. Hold on, Sterling. Tomorrow the world hears your voice. The press conference had been scheduled under the guise of a routine quarterly update. Investors filled the Maddox Global Auditorium, shoulder to shoulder, murmuring about projections and restructuring rumors. Behind the podium, a wide LED screen flickered to life with the company logo, its glowing M shifting gently across a sea of blue. But it wasn't Malik who took the stage first. It was Jasmine. Dressed in dark gray, her hospital badge still clipped to her coat, she looked almost out of place in the sea of tailored suits and leather briefcases. Yet her steps were calm, deliberate. In the wings, Malik stiffened. What the hell is she doing? Beside him, Lacey leaned in. She got through security somehow. Want me to? No, he cut in, teeth gritted. Let her speak, then we bury her. Jasmine reached the mic. Her voice, though quiet, cut through the silence like a scalpel. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. I know many of you expected Malik Roston to lead today's update, but before he speaks, I need to show you something. Something that could no longer remain hidden. She tapped a remote. The screen behind her changed. Footage began to play, grainy at first, then sharpening. Sterling Maddox pacing his private conference room. Malik leaning on the table, smug, cold. "You've been laundering money through our scholarship funds," Sterling said. Malik, "I don't need to be watched, Sterling." "I own the glass." Gas rippled through the crowd. Then came the voiceover. Sterling's. Clear. Reconstructed from a combination of his personal recordings and AI-enhanced authentication, verified by Alexis. "This company was founded on integrity, and I refuse to let it be corrupted in my name." Malik burst from the side curtain, storming the stage. "Turn that off. You have no authorization to present this." Security moved toward Jasmine, but she held up a hand. "Stop. I'm a licensed medical professional operating under state whistleblower protection, and everything you just saw is backed by the company's internal data vault. The next slide on screen, spreadsheets, wire transfers, fake shell corporations, account numbers tied to Cayman banks, and one signature replicated on 6 fraudulent documents, Sterling Maddox's. But here's the thing," Jasmine continued, turning to the crowd. "Sterling's signature was digitally forged. He never signed those papers, and he never authorized the movement of $82 million in charitable funds." Malik's face drained of color. "You're insane." Another voice cut through. "Number, she's just braver than you ever were." The crowd parted as a figure emerged at the back of the room, wheeled forward in a sleek medical chair, flanked by Alexis and 2 plainclothes FBI agents. Sterling Maddox, alive, awake, watching. His left arm trembled slightly, but his eyes were locked on Malik, alive with fire. Gasps filled the space. Sterling's voice, though hoarse, was audible thanks to a neck mic Alexis had prepped. "Funny thing about comas, you hear everything." He paused. "Every damn word." Malik staggered back. "This is a setup," he snapped. "You can't prove—" The agent stepped forward. "Mr. Roston," one said, flashing his badge, "you're under arrest for corporate fraud, attempted murder, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy." "What? No, this is fake. He can't, he was—" "You pushed him," Jasmine said coldly, "and I watched you do it." Malik turned, eyes wild. "You were nothing but a nurse." "Wrong," Sterling said. "She's the one who saved me, the one who stayed." Malik made a run for it, but Lacey, realizing the tide had turned, didn't follow. Security intercepted him at the exit. Applause broke out slowly, awkwardly, but then began to swell into something cathartic. Jasmine stepped off the stage, walking towards Sterling as the agents cuffed Malik in front of the press. "You ready to take your company back?" she asked softly. Sterling managed a faint smile. "Let's start with the truth." Fallout. The news broke within minutes. By sundown, every major network was running the story. Maddox CEO faked coma recovery to expose corporate coup. Whistleblower nurse and tech billionaire uncover $80 million fraud ring. Sterling Maddox returns, and so does justice. Within days, Malik's assets were frozen. His co-conspirators were named in sealed indictments. The board dissolved temporarily as a federal trustee began restructuring Maddox Global under Sterling's direct supervision. Jasmine was offered a position as Director of Medical Ethics and Patient Advocacy. She declined. Instead, she stood beside Sterling during his first public appearance post-recovery. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted, but Sterling only looked at her when he spoke. "I spent weeks in silence, listening to the people I trusted most plot my death. But I also heard something else. Loyalty, courage, a voice that never gave up on me." He turned to the crowd. "Some people think power is what you can buy, but real power, real legacy, is who's willing to stand beside you when you have nothing left to give." He looked at Jasmine once more. "And who's willing to risk everything just to help you breathe again?" 6 months later, the Maddox Foundation campus looked different. Gone were the corporate banners and sleek marketing posters. In their place stood murals, commissioned by young artists, funded through the very scholarship program Malik once tried to dismantle. One stretched across the side of the main building. Sterling, seated, hand outstretched not in dominance, but in invitation. Surrounding him, children of every background reaching back. A new motto ran beneath it. What we build must serve more than ourselves. Sterling watched from a garden bench as a group of interns passed by, laughing, hopeful, shoulders free of the weight he'd once carried alone. His physical recovery was ongoing. Some days were easier than others. He walked with a cane now, moved slower, and spoke less. But when he did speak, people listened, not because of his wealth or title, but because he had nearly lost it all and chose to rise differently. Jasmine joined him on the bench. Her hair was shorter now, braided close to her scalp, her scrubs traded in for soft cotton and a leather notebook tucked under her arm. "You'll be late for the panel," she said with a half smile. Sterling gave a slow shake of his head. "Let them wait. For once they're waiting on something worth hearing." She laughed, warm and easy. It had taken her time to rest, to believe that not everything required vigilance, that justice once set in motion could keep rolling without her constant hand. "You still think about him?" she asked. Sterling nodded once. "Every day, not because I regret stopping him, but because I didn't see him for what he was until it nearly ended me." Jasmine looked out toward the courtyard. "Do you ever think, if you hadn't pretended to be in that coma, I wouldn't have understood how loud silence can be?" he said quietly. "How much truth people say when they think you're powerless." He turned to her. "You gave me more than time, Jasmine. You gave me purpose when I didn't have a voice." She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Across the city, the ripple effects had taken root. Laws were being drafted to protect patients from guardianship fraud. Corporate transparency groups cited the Maddox case as a new gold standard for ethical whistleblowing. And Alexis, she now headed an independent neuroscience institute focused on cognitive autonomy, with full funding from Sterling's restructured foundation. Change wasn't just a press release, it was happening, quietly, steadily. Jasmine finally opened her notebook, revealing the cover. Stillness Speaks, a memoir from the Coma ward. She wasn't sure yet if she'd publish it, but she wrote in it every day. For herself, for him, for the millions who'd never be believed without someone listening in the dark. As the sun dipped lower, Sterling stood. It took him longer now, but there was grace in the effort. Jasmine rose with him. "You coming to the panel after all?" she asked. Sterling looked toward the horizon, then back to the mural, where his painted hand reached into a future he no longer feared. "I think I am, but this time, I'll let them ask the first question." Jasmine smiled. "And what if they ask what's next?" He exhaled slowly, eyes narrowing with quiet fire. "Then I'll ask them the same thing. Change doesn't come from power. It comes from the moment someone decides silence is no longer acceptable." Sterling Maddox.